With the Premier League fixture list recently being revealed, I thought I'd talk about the growing issue, which is fixture congestion, and how this will impact Arteta's squad management and Arsenal's transfer plans. My instant reaction to the fixtures from an Arsenal perspective was, oh god, we've got to go to Anfield in the run-in. And surprise surprise, City don't have a difficult fixture in their last 6 games. But then I saw the dates for our Champions League fixtures, and it looks pretty worrying. Next season, the sheer amount of games will be staggering and unlike anything we've seen before for English clubs competing in Europe. The new Champions League format means that Arsenal will now play 8 group stage matches and another potential 2 in a playoff knockout round if we're unable to finish in the top 8 in the league of 32 teams. Whether this is right or not for player welfare, managers must take this into account when considering the impact this amount of football will have on the physical performance of the players. I want to take a look at some of the minutes played by Arsenal players last season. William Saliba played all 38 games in the Premier League last season. Now compare this to the sharing of minutes from City defenders over the past few years. This is something we need to take note of. And this is why a change in mentality is needed when it comes to squad depth. For example, the likes of Ousmane Diamonde and Marc Guéhi, players who've been linked in the past and are in the same position as William Saliba, should be targeted regardless of whether they are deemed to be starters or not. There are enough minutes to be shared this season, and these are 2 players in particular who I'd love to come in as they are able to cover in different roles across our backline, be it in central centre-back in build-up, or defending wide areas from either the left or right centre-back. Regardless of the increase in games due to the new UCL format, we need to improve with our usage of our squad without seeing rotation impact our performance and our rhythm. Our starting 11 obviously have patterns of play which come like muscle memory now, and you look at our rotations on the right hand side and it's sometimes like clockwork. But if you took out Odegaard, Saka or White, would our rhythm suffer? Most likely. Now the counter argument is that if you take out the best players from any top side, their general play would suffer. But I don't think we can cope with taking 2 or 3 of our best players out of the side and staying at a top level, anywhere near the likes of City or Madrid, who are at the level we aspire to reach, because otherwise what are we aiming to do? Many of our players are away at the Euros, meaning they have no rest going into pre-season and the start of the campaign. At the back end of last season, we saw jaded legs, and next season I don't think we can afford to have any fringe players in the squad who Mikel doesn't trust. The floor of the squad must raise if we want to be able to compete on all 4 fronts next season. I want to take a look at the narrative surrounding Saka and how his minutes dominate the talk when it comes to Arteta and rotation. Whether it's he's playing too much, he's playing for injury, we don't have adequate backup, etc. But this will be the same with any team and their best player. It's just how you can cope without them. Liverpool have very rarely been without Salah in the last 7 years, but coped remarkably well without key players this season and stayed with the pack in the title race right up until the end. Arteta said the following in 2022 after a win in the Europa League against PSV, where he was asked about Saka playing for 85 minutes. Look at the top players in world football. They play 70 matches every 3 days and make the difference and win the game. You want to be at the top, you have to be able to do that. And if we start to put something different in the mind of a young player, I think we're making a huge mistake, because then he would be like, no, I don't want to play now. I don't want that. I want them to be ruthless every 3 days. I want them knocking on my door saying, I want to play, I want to win the game. Now this is valid of course, but with games increasing and the margins being so small, I'd like to see our best players given rest when we can, to keep them fresh and maximising their performance. So when we discuss bringing in cover for Bukayo, names like Pedro Neto or Nico Williams will have plenty of football to play on either flank, providing competition for Saka and Martinelli. We need to let go of the idea that a player won't join us because they won't be an automatic starter. City signed Riyad Mahrez when they had a top 2 winger partnership in the league in Sterling and Sane. This will be a huge season for the club and one where it will come with the pressure to go one step further in the league, but also a season where I think the club need to prove that they can deal with going deep in multiple competitions as they've struggled to do so in the past. Now people will say this is what happens to the big clubs, they play a lot of football and go deep in competitions. But I expect the new UCL format to have a huge impact on the biggest clubs in the world and how aggressive they are in the transfer market, building squads that can cope with a game every 3 to 4 days for 4 months straight. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.